Good evening, everyone. We have a full house here. Welcome to the Pleasanton Mayoral and Council Candidates Forum. Our program will be split tonight with the two candidates for mayor speaking first over the next hour and the four candidates for city council following at approximately 7:15. At the dais now, we have the 2024 mayoral candidates, incumbent Mayor Carla Brown and current city council member Jack Balch. I'm Gina Chanel Wilcox, for those of you who do not know who I am. I'm the publisher of the Pleasanton Weekly and the president of Embarcadero Media Foundation's East Bay Division. The division includes the Pleasanton Weekly newspaper, pleasantonweekly.com, danvillesanramon.com, and livermorevine.com. My co-moderator tonight, many people know, is Jeremy Walsh, the editorial director of the Embarcadero Media Foundation East Bay Division. And our staff reporter, Christian Trujano, is covering the forum. And our timekeeper is our colleague, Carolyn Chan. Thank you very much to the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce for partnering on the logistics of this forum, and to Amos Productions for video recording tonight's event for future viewing online. Finally, thank you to the mayoral candidates for joining us this evening. We will start with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate. Then each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to questions. Our timekeeper, Carolyn, will signal you when you have 30 seconds remaining and when to stop. In the interest of time, and allowing us to ask as many questions as possible, we ask the candidates to save any rebuttals for closing statements. We have some prepared questions and some questions that were emailed to us from readers. We will also be collecting additional questions from the audience. Audience members, if you have a question, please write it on an index card, which are up here, and signal one of our volunteers. Volunteers, can you wave? Okay, so Arnie and James are our volunteers, so just flag them down, and they will bring us the questions, and then we, as we go through, look through and see if there's any topics that we haven't hit upon. We will consolidate questions on the same subject and ask as many questions as time allows, but please understand that we are not able to ask every question. At the end, each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing statements. Out of respect for the candidates and others, let's agree that all audience members will be polite, attentive, and as quiet as possible. No cheering, booing, distractions, outbursts, please. And please, please, please remember to silence your phones. We will start in alphabetical order with candidate Balch giving his opening statement first. Then we will alternate who speaks first during the questioning portion of the program. Let's get it started.
Okay, so is that it to start?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to our hosts and for all of you being here tonight. It is a packed house. My name is Jack Balch. I'm running for mayor of Pleasanton because I believe our city needs a fresh direction, one rooted in fiscal responsibility, public safety, and true commitment to community engagement. As a lifelong resident of the region, growing up on the Sunol-Fremont border, I've dedicated over 15 years of service to Pleasanton. As a certified public accountant for more than 22 years, I've consistently applied my financial expertise to advocate for prudent spending of your taxpayer dollars. I've stood against major water rate hikes and wasteful spending. I've fought for transparency and accountability in our most local form of government. Pleasanton is an extraordinary place, but we are at a crossroads. The challenges we face, rising costs of living, stretched public safety resources, and misdirected spending demand proactive leadership that's willing to ask tough questions and listen to you, our community. We need to move our city forward. There are real differences between my opponent and I, how we voted in the past, and how we see the direction of our community for the future. To me, it's as simple as reactive versus proactive leadership. My commitment is to ensure Pleasanton doesn't just get by, but thrives with well-managed finances, robust public safety, and an open, transparent government that truly listens to its residents and delivers the excellent public services we deserve. I'm running to bring that fresh new direction, restore our reputation as a well-managed city of planned progress, and to make sure Pleasanton remains a place where families, businesses, and our entire community can succeed. Thank you for your time tonight. I hope to earn your vote for mayor.
Thank you. Let's try to avoid any applause. Let's just, as Gina said, no outbursts. Let's keep the audience quiet and respectful for everyone.
So we can get enough questions in.
Exactly. And Carla Brown.
Excuse me. Good evening, and thank you, Pleasanton Weekly, for bringing this forum together. Appreciate you spending the evening with us, not only as the mayor and then later as the city council interviews and forum. So I've been mayor for 4 years. I was elected in the worst of COVID, which by that I mean there wasn't even vaccines back in November 2020. It has been my full-time job to be the mayor of this beautiful city. I attend at least 10 meetings per month representing the city of Pleasanton. I'm often a public speaker as well. I advocate for smart growth and, most of all, public health. I've been influential in bringing new businesses to Pleasanton. When 10x Genomics was interviewing other cities on where to make their $150,000 corporate headquarters, it was a conversation I had with their two founders, along with the city manager and our director of public, bringing planning together. We brought a huge employer and a tax base to the city of Pleasanton. You know, we have over 58,000 jobs in this city, and some of those are companies that are very familiar to you, as well as they are to me as mayor. We brought 1,200 jobs for Kaiser IT under my leadership. Roche Molecular is thriving here in our community, a key developer of COVID home test kits, going back to the COVID theme. Workday, I was there and I was a speaker when they did our ribbon cutting. I'm very pleased to be a part of that. And we have so much more. Also, we're home of some of the fastest growing companies in the country. So one of our companies here, cyber insurance company called Cowbell, grew 13,000%, putting them in the top 10 in the country. I'm also here to talk about facts, because there's a lot of rumors and innuendo and misinformation being floated around about many, I guess I'm on the time. That was quick. Okay, we have a lot to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. And the first question will go to Carla Brown. Let's jump right in with Measure PP. In many ways, the big ticket item on Pleasanton ballots. We know how each of you voted on the dais about whether to send the half-cent sales tax to the voters. But what about in the election booth? Will you vote for or against Measure PP on your ballot? And what do you think will realistically happen for the city of Pleasanton if PP passes or it fails?
All right, thank you, Jeremy. I voted on the city council. It was a 4-1 vote to let the voters decide. It is your decision, not my decision, if you're going to make major cuts throughout our community. The shortcoming, what they call a structural deficit, which means every year, is estimated between $10 and $13 million per year. You can't make that up on grants. I brought millions in grants to this city by going to Sacramento and Washington, D.C. I can't balance a budget on grants. So I want you to make the decision. Personally, I'm going to join our police union, our firefighter union, and our city employee union, and I'm going to support Measure PP. I think people in this city have come accustomed to concerts in the park, movies in the theater, firehouse arts that's thriving, a library that's open every day possible, senior centers, but most of all, residents in our community have become accustomed to the best level of police and fire. If you need an emergency, I don't think anybody wants to talk about, which is on the chopping block, closing a fire station. That's where your 911 calls come if you are in an emergency medical need. So I'm going to join our police and our fire and our city employee union. I'm going to support the half-cent sales tax. You deserve it. There are many reasons why we've gotten this fiscal situation. I hope we're going to ask about those. If not, I'll close. But one of them is increased expenses. Another of them is we're seeing much less revenue coming out of the Stone Ridge Mall. And the third is rising pension costs. Our city, we run what's most commonly referred to as our budget for a general fund. It's $150 million. Our pension went up $86 million in 1 year. $86 million. The people who work here were committed for a retirement that's not Social Security, and I intend to give it to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack Balch.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I have definitely been asked what I'll be doing in the voting booth a few times while I've been out campaigning, and I think it's a very personal question, and obviously we know how I voted on the dais. Let me begin with this. As one of your currently elected council members and a certified public accountant, I had to bring that to bear when I had to decide if to ask the voters for the sales tax at this time. And I think it behooves us that we elect city leaders who do the hard work first before asking us to open our wallets. So to me, public safety is one of the very, very last things that I would be looking to cut to balance our budget. It is a non-negotiable thing. You need to have the feeling of safety and the reality of safety. We saw the budget crisis coming. I spoke more than 2 years about the declining problems in our budget and tried to get my fellow council members to alter the course of the spending, to adjust and save and make minor cuts so that minor cuts over a length of time would lead to the savings that might help us now. We have the Pension 115 Trust with $51.1 million in it because a 2018 council saw ahead and made plans by socking that money away, while this council prioritized a skate park. So when I am asked how I am voting for the Measure PP, I have a difficult time with trust right now. And even as I sit here before you and look you straight in the eye, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to vote on it because, yes, we do have some structural challenges, and by far additional revenues are one solution that will work. Is it the only solution? I can't tell you that. And I have ideas of how we could try to work on it as a council and what leaders should do.
Thank you. Next question will start with Jack Balch. Residents continue to be focused on public safety in Pleasanton for good reason. This is a critical point for the Pleasanton Police Department with issues around staffing, morale, response times, beat reductions, and now leadership. How do you view the City Council's role in the recruitment of a new police chief? What should the next permanent chief prioritize in their first 90 days on the job?
A question I didn't foresee. We know the city manager because the council appoints the city manager. The city manager is the one that will ultimately decide on the police chief that is hired. That being said, I would like a police chief that is engaged with our community to understand what our expectations are of our community. We see rising response times in our police department up to now 5 minutes and 19 seconds when we have a standard that we try to hold of 4 minutes. When we talk about the qualities we want to bring forward to our department, we want professionalism. We want people that will treat others with respect, even when they disagree. So I expect that our city manager will do his job as he does in a professional manner and hire someone that's a professional who will meet with our residents, understand their concerns, both in support or maybe having a difficulty with our police force, and make sure that they listen to all of us because our police force is here to protect all of us. I think we do have a staffing challenge in our police department. We know we've got to address it, and that's where the response time to our residents is so critical. So we need to be laser focused on that, and hiring tone at the top will matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla Brown.
Sure. A survey was done by the City of Pleasanton in 2023, and they asked questions of you, residents. Do you feel safe in our community? Over 90% gave it an excellent or good rating. Our police officers are incredible. If anything, I'm told those officers need to write more tickets. That'll balance the budget. Well, it's a funny story, but I don't think it will quite balance our budget. But we do have outstanding police and firefighters. The leadership starts at the top, and I think it should be led by example. A new police chief needs to be outstanding. I'll tell you, the interim police chief we have right now, Chief Anderson, is outstanding. I speak regularly to our police department, and they tell me how she knows what a good police officer is. She has their back. They would serve on the street with her at their side any day, any time. That's what good leadership is. But as Councilmember Balch mentioned, it is ultimately the decision of the city manager. We can make a request, but it is ultimately his decision. So I am sure, and I have great confidence in our city manager, Jerry Bowden. He's going to pick an excellent police officer as top job as the chief. He has not picked one previously. The previous chief was Officer Swing, Chief Swing, and he was selected by a previous leadership team at the city. So I'm confident we're going to continue to provide the excellent service that we do because we are hiring the right people. And regarding staffing, I asked the city manager, we're like 2 officers light of our budgeted 83 officers. So we budget every year for 83 officers. We have about 81, 82, and those missing or light officers are in the training program right now, ready to serve shortly. So it's good things at the police department.
Thank you. And we're going to go right back to Candidate Brown. The downtown business core is vital to Pleasanton's economy and its small town charm. How do you respond when people say Main Street looks tired or outdated? How do you plan to increase vibrancy in downtown? And please be specific.
Sure. Well, first of all, the city council approves $80,000 to help the Pleasanton Downtown Association run its business. That does not cover its expenses. As you know, they have fun events, wine strolls, Halloween events, and more. And they also sponsor concerts in the park. So actually, we have new businesses coming to town. Mantra is going to be coming to the 2-story building that has a rooftop dining. So Mantra is under development right now of a Fremont-based company bought the old Christensen's, and they're working with the city on what will be the best business going in there. And street closures come at no small cost to this city council. We spend approximately $10,000 every week we shut down the street. That's not a minor expense, but we do it. And I'm going to back up and go back to COVID. When at the worst of COVID, this council, and we were all 5 of us on it, decided to do street closures to save our downtown businesses. They decided that we're going to allow parklets, which we've never done in Pleasanton before, to allow people to dine outside and expand our restaurant capacities. But most of all, shutting down Main Street, I've only heard the most positive things. I've seen mayors from my sister cities coming to Pleasanton to dine in our restaurants during street closures. I think street closures are a huge hit. When I talk to businesses on Main Street, they're thriving. They're having a wonderful time. We do bands in the street. I see kids riding their bikes under the Pleasanton Arch. It's fabulous, and it really has energized downtown Pleasanton. So I'm going to respectfully disagree that it's tired. It looks like fun to me.
Thank you. And Candidate Balch.
Yeah, thank you very much. I didn't really hear a lot of changes. I heard how to keep it the same. So let me be very clear. Our active ground floor use policy that was put in place and tightened by my opponent and the council members makes it difficult for businesses to locate here. Livermore is thriving. Their downtown plan has it where they actually support businesses coming into their downtown. Our downtown specific plan, from what I've heard from businesses, is an additional layer of government red tape. We need to be looking at what impediments we have put in place for businesses to locate here. And if you think we're doing great, then tell me how, I'm just lost it. San Ramon is doing well, downtown Danville is doing well, and Livermore. Because when they look at Pleasanton and we are not open for business because our package checklist to get a permit to open downtown is thicker than all the others, that should mean something. So we need to look at the active ground floor use policy, and we need to bring back the downtown specific plan and look at how it can be a complement to increasing the vibrancy of downtown instead of a hindrance or additional layer of government bureaucracy. The other thing I'll mention is that we need to be working with our chamber representing businesses to understand what the impediments are to businesses locating here. We know businesses pass up Pleasanton to locate in other municipalities nearby. And when we look at if we're open past 8:30 p.m., we should be asking ourselves, what are we doing wrong? So I think we need to be focused on that. We need to be looking at how we loosen the active ground floor use policy or make it more manageable so that we still are achieving the goals we have. Businesses are changing and they're modernizing, and we need to get in front of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And shifting right back to candidate Balch and shifting to housing in general, we'll ask more about the east side in a few minutes. Candidate Balch, what will you do as mayor to ensure the city achieves its goals for housing throughout Pleasanton? And what will you do when your vision for housing conflicts with mandates from Sacramento or the courts?
Well, so Pleasanton, I've been around long enough to know that we tried to sue the state, and it cost us probably a lot more money than we anticipated. Now people talk to me about suing the state, and I ask, with what money do you think we have to hire an attorney? The reality is that we have a housing problem. If you have a life event, if you have a divorce, a medical emergency or something, I ask if your family can afford 2 houses in our community, or would you have to move out? Let's start with that premise. Then let's start with the premise that in last year, we only had 18 building permits issued, 11 were ADUs, 7 were single-family homes, and we graduated 1,200 seniors. If our goal is to take care of our future, to nurture our future, and we're spending so much money to protect them, to provide sports parks for them, then why are we not helping them get to that next phase of their life? My son is 16, and I think about this often. So I think Pleasanton needs to be in the driver's seat. Pleasanton has been making some pretty poor choices in terms of how it evaluated sites, in my opinion. We did not bring on the east side in 22 as I had asked for, because my opponent and the majority had their opinion, and I respect it. But we densified the rest of our community as a result. Now the east side is looking like it will be annexed in, and instead of the 6,000 units of housing that we would have zoned, it will be approximately 6,800 units of housing, and without the benefits of the planning or foresight. We can get into the driver's seat on housing a lot better than what we choose to do. It's got to be proactive leadership, not reactive leadership, and that's what I plan to do. Thank you.
Candidate Brown.
Sure. Sorry, just a little allergies here today. East Side, let's talk about it. When the sites were selected for 6,000 housing units throughout the city of Pleasanton, we had a metrics that quite honestly we all agreed to. And the metrics had to do, is it near transit for transit-oriented development?
I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, it's just housing, not East Side.
Yeah, we'll talk about east
I
side.
kind of got onto the East Side there, but okay, sounds good. I'm responding to him, and I'll wait for that.
Sorry.
No problem. Let's talk about housing. So the city of Pleasanton didn't sue the state. The city of Pleasanton had a ballot measure, and it capped how many housing units could be in our city. And the goal back way before I was involved in politics was to balance schools, water, sewer, infrastructure to the number of housing units. And the housing unit that was balanced at the leaders at that time and those that gathered signatures was 29,000 housing units. Guess what? That's where we are. We're at 29,000 housing units. It might feel a little bit crowded, but that is where we were. So we went just fine until we were sued by a resident who said we're blocking their ability to move here with a housing cap. It's debatable, But the state got involved, and so did the Attorney General at the time, who was Jerry Brown. And they sued the city and said, you cannot put a housing cap, even if the voters approved it. You can't put a housing cap in place for your city of Pleasanton. So it was the beginning of the chipping away of our ability to control our own destiny, what our city looks like, how many housing units there are, and what our community values, which is oftentimes that small town charm, that feeling where you know your neighbors, where you walk down the street and people say hello. The state said that is not a legal ballot argument. That's not a legal argument, and we really need to back off. So with that, we follow the state laws. They're a lot more powerful than we are. Thank you.
Thank you. And as promised, we'll move on to the east side. Following prior, we have a nicely worded question here. We'll see how it goes. Following prior council decisions on the East Pleasanton specific plan and the most recent housing element, we now know that residential developers have submitted proposals to Alameda County for 2 large-scale projects in the unincorporated east side. What is your reaction to those projects as we sit here today? And what does your gut say about potentially annexing those properties into the city? Carla Brown.
Okay, all right. Well, in the middle of a terrible drought around 2016, we were introducing, and I was on the East Side Task Force before I was elected to office in 2012, but there was a few years there we looked at some housing projects on the East Side. None of them met any of the regional housing needs allocation as you would see them today, which are more of a high density. They were single family residents. There was about 2,200 of them, and as low as 1,750, but up to 2,200. And the idea was to mark your land so that nothing else could go there. But one of the other things it did, which I think is very concerning, is it drew a road, a 4-lane road, right between 2 of our drinking water lakes, Lake H and Lake I. And as I said in my opening statement, public health is #1 priority for me. There are very few decisions I'm going to make as a mayor and a council that's going to affect your health, but water is one of those. And hopefully we'll talk about that later. So when the 1,000 people, now you can imagine, you've got quite a few people here, 1,000 residents came to public meetings and told the council at the time, I was a council member, what the hell are you doing? We don't have enough water to even water our own plants. I'm having to save toilet water. I'm under stress. And now you're talking about over 1,000 or 1,700 new houses. Put it on hold. And in the leadership at the time, Mayor Jerry Thorne put it on hold. And that's exactly how it happened. Now, go a little bit forward. We have an approved housing element with the state. The county does not. That allows housing to go into the county, which we're surrounded, of course, by the county, in ways that's not necessarily like our approved housing. So I'm definitely interested in learning more about it. It's on our agenda to talk about it. And I want to see if we can make those projects fit in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack Balch.
Yeah, so let's. I really appreciate Mayor Brown being very concerned about the drinking water. I'm a little challenged to understand how then she voted to allow PFAS contaminated wells to possibly be reactivated in town. But the east side itself represents a challenge to us. It's almost like we're absolving ourselves of the impacts that it will have on you, our residents, right? This is going to be a major impact. It's 800 approximate units of housing. And we had an opportunity to include it in our environmental impact report for the housing element in 2022. At that time, it may have helped us understand how to mitigate some of those impacts. We never included it. I voted for inclusion, and my opponent did not. When we now fast forward to today, that project was already a whisper back in 22. We already knew the developer wanted to possibly do that. This is on our doorstep. If we don't annex it in, there's a proposed sewer treatment plant. I don't know about you, but that sounds expensive and it sounds complicated to run. I don't run sewer treatment plants, thank goodness. And a well and a leach field. And so when we think about what county housing looks like versus Pleasanton housing, we probably need to think about those impacts when it's literally 30 feet or a stone's throw to our drinking water recharge lakes. So thinking ahead, 2 years ahead, we could have probably mitigated the impacts more than what we're unfortunately going to be able to do now. And being truthful with our residents as to a failure of leadership and a need to acknowledge that and do the best we can with the situation we have is exactly what I've been trying to communicate in my leadership. Thank you.
Are we already doing that kind of negative stuff? Because I want to know so I can repeat if I need to. I thought that was waited for a rebuttal.
Well, let's save anything like that for any rebuttals.
Thank you.
And I encourage you to take notes and be prepared for that period, which is coming up shortly as I look at the clock. But next, we will ask about water, and we'll start with Jack Balch. Water is another topic that has been all over the news in Pleasanton the past 2 years. Rate increases, PFAS contamination, wells offline, infrastructure projects, new sources, the Zone 7 lawsuit, you name it. How will you work to help ensure Pleasanton has a safe, reliable water supply that is financially equitable for residents, businesses, and the city's Water Enterprise Fund?
Yeah, there is no simple answer, right? He just listed all the inputs to this problem, right? So I can promise to work hard. I can promise to ask tough questions, and I can promise to try to do my best with the trust that I am asking you to give me. The reality is that we must plan to use the 3,500 acre feet water allotment to our groundwater basin that we are entitled to through the Zone 7 process. It represents 20 to 25% of our water supply. We must plan to work with Zone 7 and our other regional players or water retailers to work in partnership. This is a valley. We're all using the same groundwater basin, and we're all dependent on the state water project overall through Zone 7. We must work to diversify our water supply. Diversifying our water supply was something that this council had a choice on back in 2021 as well. And I voted to stay within the alternative water supply study session with our retailers to try to find those solutions. I voted against the contaminated PFAS wells 5 and 6 coming online because I believe that we as a community would rather conserve than have that type of water going into our pipes. It is going to be a challenge. We should not shy away from the reality of it. We are going to go with the 2-well solution currently in partnership with Zone 7. The partnership saves us a major amount of money. We hope it will work, we hope it will produce, and we hope that Zone 7, the groundwater basin manager, will be able to gain information to determine if it's a viable solution for us. If that does not work, our second option is to go to a PFAS treatment plant over by the Operations Service Center off Bush Road. And then our third option is actually to consider buying water directly from Zone 7 entirely. But it doesn't give us the reliability or the diversification that I think all of us would prefer to have. So I've been working hard on that and challenging the assumptions for the water rates. I didn't believe that we challenged them enough, which is why I was unable to vote for the 30% water rate increase in 2024 and the 12% water increase in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla Brown.
Sure. Well, that strongly advocated for city council. Nobody wants to raise water rates. But do you know our water fund would have been insolvent in 2 years? And it would have been $25 million in debt in 3 years? So you did actually offer a 15% raise times 2, which still adds up to 30. But we don't want to raise water rates, but delivering clean, safe water is a mandatory requirement by this city. So we diversified our water supplies is what we're looking for. We're drilling 3 new test wells outside of the PFAS plume with our business partners, our water partners at Zone 7. I'm endorsed by 3 Zone 7 Water Board commissioners. These test wells will let us know, are we achieving our goal? Can we provide clean, safe water without parts per trillion in PFAS. And regarding diversified water supply, I think what you're referring to was potable reuse. I don't support wastewater becoming my drinking water. I've been firm about that the entire time I've been an elected official. I will not support drinking toilet to tap, as it's sometimes called, highly processed wastewater. We need to get clean, safe water. We sit on 250,000 acre-feet in this Tri-Valley, acre-feet, and we have the rights, the city of Pleasanton, to pull 3,500 acre-feet. That's an acre, a foot deep, times 3,500. We have the legal right to pull that amount of water. It's at a very little cost. We're going to do it with our water experts at Zone 7. We're going to continue to supply clean, safe drinking water to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to go back to candidate Brown with the next question. What ideas do you have to promote economic development in the city? Please approach the question as it applies to small and medium-sized local businesses as well as the large companies and retailers with a strong presence here. How will you collaborate with organizations like the Chamber, Visit Tri-Valley, and the PDA?
Sure. Well, actually, I've worked really closely with the Chamber since I was elected as mayor. I give the state of the city, and I'm very proud to say that we set the new record for the most attendees of businesses at my state of the city. The Pleasanton Downtown Association, I swear in their board leaders, and on a regular basis I talk to them, as well as my city manager, who, along with our Lisa Adamos, our economic development director, works with our downtown businesses. Just last night, I was at the mall. The mall is alive and well. We are going to make it better. Are we going to talk about the mall? Okay, then I'll open it up. The Stone Ridge Mall has multiple owners. They came here to this council meeting, and I was sitting here in the middle, and we granted an extension for Simon Property if they would provide $50,000 for seed money to collaborate together with all the business owners. So there was an owner from Nordstrom's, Sears, Simon, and what was the JCPenney store, which still is JCPenney, but it has a new ownership. We need them to work together. We want to provide housing in the Stonebridge Mall area that will be a transit-oriented, rich area. It's right near BART and 580, 680. People can walk to work. They can walk to 10X Genomics or Workday. This is exciting, and it's new, and it's what Pleasanton is going to look like. We're going to revitalize these downtown businesses, but we're also going to revitalize the mall with housing where people can shop right there and then walk home. I'm excited about our businesses. As I said earlier, I've helped bring 10X Genomics here. I have met with countless business owners and people thinking of coming to Pleasanton. I have a A+ track record, and I'm going to continue to do it because I consider this my full-time job. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Balch.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity on this. So I'm a CFO by my profession in the day. I have a day job. I'm a CFO. And so economic vitality is what I do. It's actually my job. I track debt portfolios. I track rental rates for warehouse space. And I'm involved. So I talk to a lot of businesses throughout the entire Bay Area, and they're having challenges. Their challenges are labor force, commutes, long commutes for their labor force, affordable housing. So when we talk about how to get Pleasanton to attract businesses and to help the businesses we've attracted thrive here, we actually have a plan, and we need to implement it. The plan is outstanding. It talks about how we've implemented barriers to our businesses that make it where they choose other locations. We have approximately 60,000 pre-COVID numbers, to be clear, approximately 60,000 people commuting in to fill jobs here, and approximately 30,000 per year commuting out. So we are a job center, no doubt about it. And we need to continue to do that. We definitely do. So similar to the downtown, and we know that not all businesses are located downtown, looking at what red tape we have here when they have red carpet in Livermore is important. Working with our chamber to hear what the barriers are and how we can reduce them. Looking at how we continue to spur innovation, not only in the life sciences and technology areas, but also in the trades and some of these other services we need. I just got rear-ended the other day, and you know how hard it is to find a mechanic to fix a bumper right now in Pleasanton? So we need to be thinking about the services we want and how to foster them. As we zone housing, we need to not be displacing the businesses we already have as well. And they are part of the conversation. They contribute to the property tax, they contribute to the economic vitality, they provide the services when you want to have a birthday party or anything, copies or postage. They are part of us, and we need to help them. Thank you.
Thank you. And back to candidate Balch for the next question. One of the council's important roles is oversight of the city manager's office. How do you assess the job that City Manager Jerry Bowden has done since returning to Pleasanton, and what must he and his staff prioritize for the next 2 years?
I'm not going to give the city manager's performance review sitting up here. That's inappropriate in my opinion. So let me go with my expectations for leadership of our highest city manager position in our city, right? I expect professionalism. I expect that you are able to talk to them, that you are able to communicate even if you disagree, that you're listened to, not to be responded to, but listened to be understood, to be heard. I expect our city manager to act with professionalism when they arrive, and I expect that they try to uphold that and instill those values in others. We have a lot of challenges in Pleasanton. We're talking about them all right here. The job is complex, no doubt about it, from water to police, and we need to realize that. So what I expect our city manager to do is act with the professionalism of the industry, and I talk to him about my expectations that fold into that. But I won't have his performance review here. Thank you, though.
Candidate Brown.
Yes, thank you. We have an outstanding city manager. He brought a new face to what's going on in our city. What he brought, along with our finance director, was eye-opening. It was something that even in our first few years, nobody talked about. It's called asset management. So for example, we had a leaky roof in the library. We had a leaky roof for a long time in the library. And you know why it couldn't be fixed? Because nobody set aside the funds to repair the roof. Isn't that unbelievable? When it came time to buy a new specialized fire truck for $1.4 million, do you know how much was saved? $0. We're in the process of evaluating our drinking water pipe, which is 300 miles of drinking water pipe. That's the equivalent of Pleasanton to almost the state of Oregon. Much of it is near the end of its life. Do you know how much was set aside? Almost nothing. Asset management means we've got a Bernal field and it's got turf. Are we setting money aside so that we can one day replace that? So that we can repair a roof at the library before I get black mold and ruin books? Setting aside funds through asset management has been one of Jerry's, as in addition to his 5-year budget plan. Instead of 2 years, we'll find the money if we need it. This is professional leadership, and he has brought it to the city of Pleasanton. He's brought it along with our finance director, and it's one of the reasons we're tight on our budget. It's one of the reasons we are, for the first time, setting money aside so that we can purchase a new fire truck without having to go into a debt and get a loan. These are important features for running a city. He's brought new, fresh ideas. He's brought professionalism. If I call him on a Saturday, I know he talks to many of our council members on the weekends if they call and there's an urgent matter. So I think he's doing an incredible job. It's not really a review, but he's opening our eyes to things we did not know before. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Carla Brown and maybe address some of that tension from earlier and staying on the subject of leading by example. How do you respond to concerns some residents have raised about decorum among the dais during council meetings in the past year or so? Infighting, curt tones, political grandstanding, unconstructive conversations are just a few of the observations out there. How will you, as mayor, address the reality and the perception here?
Well, each council member they don't work for me. I'm not their manager. They were elected by you. And guess what? They all have different backgrounds. Some, I won't even go in the backgrounds, our council members. They all have different backgrounds and they all have different goals for the city. And it sometimes is difficult to have respectful conversations, but still agree to disagree. Sadly, not everyone can agree to disagree. So it's my job, and I've certainly used the gavel more than once, to stop people talking over each other, being disrespectful, and I want to run a clean, respectful meeting. I call each council member by their first and last name, let me try again. Councilmember Balch, Vice Mayor Testa. I refer to them with respect. Why? Because you put them in office. Each one of us has 5 equal votes. No vote is more important than the rest. It's our job to work together to find somebody, and because of this thing called the Brown Act, nothing to do with me, we can only talk to one other council member because that's not a majority. So I would love to see more outreach to even people you disagree with, to have a respectful conversation even before you come into the council. And then let's talk about ideas. Let's really vet this. And some of our meetings, with council agreement, have run over midnight. Yep, we start on Tuesday and we end on Wednesday. And so it's probably somewhat expected that some people get just a little on the cranky side. But we run a clean meeting. We run a respectful meeting. I think it's exaggerated. I think there have been some times where people maybe don't like the majority vote. But I've been in the minority. Every one of us, all 5 of us, has been in the minority. We say hello and goodbye. We talk in the parking lot, and we treat each other with respect, as we should.
Thank you. And I'll just give a quick reminder to the audience, double check those cell phones. Any other thing that can make noises, please shut those off. Jack Balch.
Well, I see it as a circus, so I'm not really, let's just call a spade a spade. The challenge is that we can only control ourselves, right? So I try to do my very best to control me. And my wife says sometimes I should act more like I'm at the dais when I'm at home, upset at my son for doing 16-year-old things, right? I run Ava Community Energy. I'm lucky enough to be current chairperson of that. It's 18 elected officials across all of Alameda and Contra Costa, or San Joaquin County. We have a lot of disagreements there. We have a lot of speakers at every meeting because the issues are contentious. It starts with the tone at the top. It starts with respecting the speaker, understanding that we are here to serve you. We are not here for ourselves. I am borrowing this chair with the trust that you place in me for the term you elect me to have it. And I try to uphold myself despite my own personal flaws and experience. I try to uphold myself to the values so that my son can watch a council meeting and not be disappointed in my actions. I control myself, and I try to do very best I can. I apologize if I fall short at times, but thank you.
Thank you. And this will be our final question of the evening. A nice suggestion from the audience. We had several along these lines. And let's bookend tonight's event by going back to maybe what might happen with the PP results. And this was a card we got after our first question, so maybe the audience wanted to hear more specifics. If Measure PP doesn't pass, how would you cover the budget shortfall? What ideas do you have other than sales tax to increase revenue or reduce expenses?
I think I'm up. This is a marathon, by the way. I don't know if people know that. Okay, so I did anticipate this question, so I'll try to go through it a little bit. It is not unknown that we do have a challenge. We have a budget challenge. We saw it coming. 2018 council saw it coming. And as a result, the first solution is to come together as a community in an honest and truthful way to figure out where we're at and then start looking at options. That's one. I don't have the answers to this problem. I do not. But I have suggestions on how we can do it. And it will take time. I'm a CFO, as I said earlier, by my profession, so budgets and spreadsheets are what I do. Post-pandemic, we knew the mall was not coming back. We knew that the budget was betting on Costco even when they didn't have a building in place. I tried to gain support from my fellow council members to not move $1 million to the skate park from our general reserve fund at that time. The second year, I tried to argue against allocating $5.4 million additional dollars to the skate park from our operational account because we had ARPA money. We didn't have it where we were balanced. We actually had a deficit if we didn't have the federal ARPA money. So what do we need to do? We need to look at all revenue enhancing opportunities and where we can cut costs, both things against the middle. We need to be looking at implementing the economic plan that I just mentioned earlier that we've already done. We need to update developer impact fees, which haven't been updated in 2018, especially as we look at all this housing that may come online in Pleasanton. We need to pass along the credit card processing fees that I've already mentioned. We need to work with our school district to move their property from public property to private so it will go on the property tax roll. We need to look at the travel and training budget of our city and reduce it immediately. We need to find out why we're maintaining the Century House Roses and Park for 10 years almost without anyone being able to go there because it's been closed to the public. We need to look and understand that the CalPERS return was budgeted at 6.8%, and CalPERS has just announced a preliminary result of 9.3%. And we have a Section 115 trust that we can try to plan out. We need to work all of the solutions against the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla Brown.
Sure. I was on the 2018 City Council when an actuarial hired by the city recommended a 115 trust. And what that means is we are able to set aside a dedicated amount of money in a dedicated savings account just to pay down our CalPERS or our retirement pension for our city employees that they have been, when they were hired, they were contractually agreed for a retirement. As I said, they don't get Social Security. So these are commitments that we've made. Now, CalPERS have two things. One is ARC, and it is our classic employees, and they are our most expensive. But something happened really important January 1st, 2013, and that's when, at the time, Governor Jerry Brown started PEPRA, P-E-P-R-A, and it meant our city employees that were hired after January 1st, 2013 were going to stay longer and pay more into their own retirement. That was a game changer. It makes our budget fiscally sustainable. Right now, 40% of our employees are in this lower tier, which we would call PEPRA. They will stay longer, they will put in more money, and that will help our budget to be sustainable. But what else can we do? Obviously, we're talking about a $10 to $13 million cut out of $150 million. It's about 9%. Should I take 9% across the board? I can't eliminate my roads and improvements. I can't eliminate my operations. It is going to be painful. It is going to be difficult, difficult to speak, and it's going to be hard. And that's why I think it should be your decision. It will change Pleasanton forever. Less maintenance, less grass cutting. We may be even selling the Century House. I don't know. But this will be a very difficult decision for the city, but it should be your decision. And what you decide, I will do. You're the boss, it's public servants, and actually you're at the top of the organization chart. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move on to closing statements. Each candidate will have up to 3 minutes to provide closing comments. Going in reverse alphabetical order, we will start with Carla Brown.
Okay. All right, thank you. I really appreciate you coming today. Hopefully you learned a lot. There's a misinformation, like we're closing the library, we're closing the swimming pool at Dolores Bankston. I even heard the other day that we won't get a penny off of Costco when it opens for years. It's not true. We're expected to make $1 million a year off sales tax revenue from Costco when it opens. There have been delays. The city is not a part of the problem. Their own contractors and PG&E have been their challenge. This council, I've been in this job for 12 years. As a city council, I've gone through 12 years of budgets. I know a lot about city government and city budgets, but I do not know more than my finance director, who has been working in government and city budgets for 20 years. But I do listen very closely to her. She is an advocate for the city, and she also has been watching to see what's in our future. What is our pension obligation in the future? What's going to happen if we don't do a water rate increase? How are we going to repair the pipes and add pumps and balance the pressure if we don't have the funding to do it? We're not a business. I don't charge people because they use our parks. I don't charge kids because they play on the playground. You enjoy wonderful things in our community, and so do I. Whether it's, whether it's tennis, pickleball, Firehouse Arts Center, concerts in the park, movies in the park, or just a stroll downtown where I feel safe at night, and I hope you do too. We live in one of the safest communities in Northern California. Since this is a bit of a rebuttal, I want to correct a few things. I did approve an emergency-only use of wells 5 and 6, and I specifically said, if your house is on fire and this is legal drinking water, shall I use it? If the hills are on fire and it's legal drinking water, do you want me to use the water to put out the fire? So that was the emergency-only status that I will continue to support. My opponent said because he is president of Ava Energy, that we should continue to pay the most expensive energy available, and that costs the city of Pleasanton an additional $80,000 per year on a 4-year contract. It's $320,000. We said, I don't respect that, but we'll do it, but it's on the block if the half-cent sales tax doesn't pass. He did talk about reducing the rose gardens. He talked about increasing business licensing, which if you're from the chamber, you should be listening. He talked about increasing building inspection fees at a recent city council meeting, and he talked about increasing fees for sports programs. Is this really where we're at?
Excuse me. I think we're at the 3 minutes.
3. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming this evening. I appreciate it, and I hope you learned a lot. I'll stay after if you have questions.
Thank you. And Jack Balch.
Thank you. Thank you again, everyone, for being here tonight and for engaging in our future as Pleasanton. As we wrap up, I wanted to leave you with this thought. Pleasanton is more than just our city, right? It's our home. It's where we raise our families, where we build our businesses, where we forge lifelong friendships. Our future, the future of our home, is at a pivotal moment. The decisions we make in this election will shape Pleasanton for years to come. Throughout my 15 years of dedicated service to Pleasanton, I've tried to be forward-thinking and work to protect and embrace what makes this community so special. Our sense of community, our safety, vitality, and our beautiful open spaces. But more importantly, I have learned to listen to you. I have learned to listen very well. I've heard your concerns about rising costs, stretched public safety officers and fire department, and the need for responsible growth. I've heard your frustrations about our city council that doesn't always seem to hear you. I'm running for mayor because I believe we can do better. A Pleasanton where every resident feels heard, every tax dollar is spent wisely, and where every decision is made with our future in mind. I will be transparent, I will be accountable, and I will always work in your best interest. None of us can do it alone. Pleasanton needs your action for change, your voice, your vote, your engagement. Together, we can restore Pleasanton to a city of planned progress, ensuring it remains a place where families thrive, businesses flourish, and residents can be proud to call home. I will be your mayor working hard for you. As you leave tonight, I ask you to think about what kind of leadership you want for our city. Do you want a leadership that maintains the status quo, or do you want a leadership that challenges the status quo? One that asks the tough questions and is committed to moving Pleasanton forward, maintaining our character while harnessing the power of change to actually improve the quality of our lives. It's as simple as proactive versus reactive leadership. I'm Jack Balch. I'm asking for your vote for mayor. Let's work together to bring a future that honors our past, embraces our present, and sets out a stage for a prosperous future. You can find more on my platform and myself on jackforpleasanton.com. I'm proudly endorsed by Alameda County Supervisor David Halbert, Assessor Fong Law, Board of Education President Cheryl Cucalio, and former District Attorneys Nancy O'Malley and Tom Orloff. I'm endorsed by 4 of our PUSD trustees, 2 immediate past city managers, Deborah Acosta-McKeon and Nelson Fialo, numerous local officials appointed and elected, and hundreds of residents just like you. I ask you to act to have an impact in this election. I ask for your vote. Thank you for being part of the community I call home.
Thank you. We appreciate both Jack Balch and Carla Brown taking the time with us tonight. We will now break and welcome the city council candidates in about 13 minutes. And if you're listening in the back, council candidates, we have a photo op we'd like to squeeze in between. Please come forward. And if you two could hang tight, that would be great. Thank you.
That was the fastest 3 minutes ever. I didn't think so, because I wanted to say who I'm endorsed by all these mayors, and I didn't get that. That didn't seem quite right, because when I looked at all it were 2 minutes, so, okay. Well, whatever, it is what it is.
I thought the same thing, and I am sorry I interrupted, but I didn't want you to talk about the side note.
I'm so glad you did, because I thought he brought it up, and so it was sort of like, oh, yeah.
So I thought that
I just read it.
Since the last city council election for these two seats, the city has transitioned from at-large elections to district elections. This year, we have 2 contested district races on the November ballot, Districts 2 and 4. District 2 candidates are incumbent Valerie Arkin and Craig Eicher. District 4 candidates are Matt Gatos and Vivek Mohan. For tonight's forum, we are having all candidates participate at the same time, regardless of district. While only voters in Districts 2 and 4 will be able to cast a vote for their preferred candidate, council members represent the entire city. It's important that all residents get to know the candidates and hear about their views, values, and vision for the city's future. Again, I'm Gina Chanel-Wilcox, and I'm the publisher of the Pleasanton Weekly and the president of the Embarcadero Media Foundation's East Bay Division. Our staff reporter tonight, Kristen Chuhano, is covering the forum, and our timekeeper is our colleague, Carolyn Chan. Another big thank you to the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce for partnering on the logistics of this forum, and to Jody Amos for video recording tonight's event. I have to say that this would not be possible without the partnership of the Chamber, because logistics. Finally, thank you to the candidates for joining us this evening. We will start with 2-minute opening statements from each candidate. Then each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to questions. Our timekeeper, Carolyn, will signal when you have 30 seconds remaining. In the interest of time and allowing as many questions to be posed as possible, we will ask candidates to save any rebuttals for their closing statements. We have some prepared questions and some questions that were emailed to us from readers. We will also be collecting additional questions from the audience. Audience members, if you have a question, please write it on an index card available at the, okay, James has them too. Okay. And signal our volunteers, James and Arnie, to collect the card, and they will bring those up to us. We will consolidate questions on the same subject and ask as many questions as time allows, but please understand that we will not be able to ask every question. At the end, each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing statements. Out of respect for the candidates and others, let's agree that all audience members be polite, attentive, and as quiet as possible. No cheering, booing, distractions, outbursts, applause, and please silence your cell phones. We will start in alphabetical order with candidate Arkin giving her opening statement first. We will alternate who speaks first during the questioning portion of the program. And candidate Arkin?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you to the Pleasanton Weekly for hosting. It has been my honor to represent the community as your city council member in Pleasanton for the last 4 years, and vice mayor in 2022. I would be honored yet again for the opportunity to serve. As your council member for 4 years and PUSD board member for 12 years, I balanced our budgets while preserving essential services that benefited our residents and the needs of our youth. I implemented policies that address safe drinking water, strengthened public safety, increased downtown vibrancy, and enhanced our quality of life. With COVID response, I supported businesses with outdoor dining on Main Street and weekends on Main closures. I'll continue to protect scenic hillsides, preserve our historic downtown, and advocate for affordable housing that minimizes impacts to existing neighborhoods. Supporting our award-winning schools is something I've been doing for the last 28 years, and I will always prioritize education. I believe in transparency and talking directly to residents. I personally take the time to respond to everyone that reaches out to me, and I reach out to solicit input, regardless of whether we agree or not. I will continue to engage with my community on the issues and consider all perspectives before voting on an issue. I'm also known as a consensus builder on the council. My leadership is respected throughout the community and region, and in addition to residents and business owners, I've received endorsements from Congressman Swalwell, Assemblymember Bauer-Kayan, Alameda County Supervisor Miley, former Congressman McNerney, Mayor Brown, and past Mayor Pico. I'm a 31-year resident of Pleasanton, and my husband and I raised 3 children here. They all attended Pleasanton Public Schools, K through 12. I was a library commissioner for 8 years, have a BS degree in health science and an MBA degree. I have the experience, knowledge, background, and education, and I know how to collaborate to get things done. I'm the most qualified candidate with a record of proven leadership. Our community character traits of honesty, respect, and integrity matter, and leaders should embody those traits, and I do. Pleasanton is a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family, and I am committed to that vision for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Eicher.
Okay, now you can hear me. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, Pleasanton Weekly for hosting, and the Chamber of Commerce. It's been a little while since I've had to do any public speaking, so I'm a little choppy here. I'm Craig Eicher. I've been a Pleasanton resident for 46 years, raised 2 kids in this community. They've attended schools also in Pleasanton. I've been involved in a variety of community nonprofits, founded the Pleasanton Police Officers Charitable Foundation, spent 8 years as a Hope Hospice board member and 6 years as the president of the board. I'm currently the president of the Community of Character and definitely believe in character values. Additionally, I've hosted the Widmer World Christmas Display with my father-in-law, Bob Widmer, for over 35 years. I was an employee of the Pleasanton Police Department and retired 3 years ago. I started as a volunteer, worked my way up the chain of command to interim police chief and was the interim police chief during the COVID crisis. I have a proven track record of working with the community and representing our concerns, community concerns. I possess a degree in criminal justice administration and a master's degree in organizational leadership. I've attended the FBI National Academy and the Claremont University's Drucker School of Management. I'm running for office to maintain some of the historical values and practices that made Pleasanton the great community it is today, and objectively navigating the challenges that we face today and into the future. I'm committed to maintaining a robust public safety presence, and I'm uniquely qualified to do that. I want to ensure appropriate staffing levels, decrease emergency response times, and ensure public safety personnel have the tools to do their job effectively. I want to promote stability and affordability for residents and business alike by ensuring the city operates within a balanced budget and minimizing the need for additional tax burdens. I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Matt Gatos, District 4.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody, and especially thank you to the members of the public who took your time to be civically engaged and attend here tonight, and thank you all to my wife and family who are in attendance. So a little bit about me. My name is Matt Gatos. I'm a graduate of Amador Valley High School and a lifelong Pleasanton resident. But for the 4 years that I attended the University of California, I've lived in Pleasanton my entire life. I have 4 children in the local public school system, 3 at Amador this year, and so I'm a local guy. I chose after law school to dedicate my life to public service and public safety, being offered a job by Tom Orloff, who was the district attorney of Alameda County and another Amador graduate. So I started working in the DA's office 16 years ago. I worked under Tom Orloff for a few years and then for 10 years under Nancy O'Malley, both of whose endorsements I have before you today. Other than that, with my city service, I spent 5 years on the Housing Commission, and currently I sit as the chair of the Planning Commission, appointed by my fellow planning commissioners to lead it. I've been involved in training law enforcement. I'm a post-certified law enforcement de-escalation instructor, and as recent as yesterday, spent time on my own time outside of work training the Alameda County Sheriff's Department in courtroom procedure and how to engage with the public. My priorities for the city of Pleasanton are to build and maintain confidence in public safety and make sure that criminals who hurt our community members and commit crimes are held accountable. Another huge issue I'm very concerned and very educated about is the PFAS contamination. So I would love to talk about that tonight, about my plan to ensure clean sources of and make a plan to deliver water where we don't have to buy 100% of our water from Zone 7. We do have some budgetary and tax issues. I'm sure we will talk about that. But I want to close by just, again, thanking everyone to be here, and I'm very happy to be here and to answer your questions and ask for your vote for District 4. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vivek Mohan, District 4.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you to everyone who's here. My name is Vivek Mohan, and I'm here to represent District 4. A quick introduction to myself. I'm a first-generation immigrant who moved to the Bay Area in 1988. My wife and I have called the Bay Area home ever since. We've raised a young family here. Now we have 2 wonderful young adult kids who have made our life magical. I have started a couple of small companies. I've also been a senior global executive of a Fortune 100 telecom company called Lucent Technologies, and I have lived and worked across the world with them. I have been on the Housing Commission, and I'm currently on the Planning Commission. I also help out a couple of nonprofits in the area, including One Nation Dream Makers, which supports the food insecurity issues in a thriving area like the Tri-Valley area. Pleasanton is a good city. Wonderful tree-lined neighborhoods, good schools, and most of all of you, this amazing, engaged community that calls Pleasanton home. Yet something is amiss in this wonderful city. As I talk to folks across the city, and I've been knocking on doors for the past couple of months, I've talked to probably about 1,000 households. They talk about safety, they talk about water, including the fact that the water bills have gone up significantly. They talk about now increasingly the budget issues that they're being asked to give more and more money for fewer services. So here's the question. Is this a one-time issue, or is this part of a structural problem inside Pleasanton? And I will submit to you that it's part of a structural problem. We'll go through the details during the Q&A stuff, but in the meantime, I want to thank you again for listening.
Thank you. We will now move on to the question portion, and our first question we will start with Craig Eicher, District 2. Let's jump right in with Measure PP. In many ways, the big ticket item on Pleasanton ballots. Do you support or oppose the half-cent sales tax measure, and what do you think will realistically happen for the city of Pleasanton if PP passes or it fails?
So I oppose Measure PP, and the reason I oppose it is I feel there are other methods that the city should be focused on as opposed to raising taxes. We're living in a time where we're in double-digit inflation, and almost every government entity is asking for more taxes from their residents, and I don't think that's fair, putting the burden back on our community. I do believe that the city needs to balance its budget, but when I look at what their spending looks like in their budget, is their budget looks fine moving forward. It's the addition of all the new capital expenditures that are in their One Pleasanton 5-year strategic plan that are increasing the cost to the budget. And then there's mechanisms where they can use funding from reserves, like the pension reserves that have been set aside from folks that thought about these issues 10 years ago and put that money aside specifically for cutting off the top of this bubble in pensions that they had anticipated at this time. And this council chose not to use that money, where I think there are other ways to meet our budgetary needs moving forward.
Thank you. Matt Gatos, District 4.
Thank you. I hope that everybody in this room makes an informed decision about how they vote on this issue. And when I say informed, I mean informed. In 130 years since its incorporation in 1894, Pleasanton has never asked its residents to approve a sales tax that we pay that would come back to us. We pay 10.25%. 4.25 of that goes to the county, 6% of that goes to the state, and the city receives 1% of that back to use. So we have critical infrastructure needs. We also have beautiful parks and amenities that our citizens enjoy and that drive our property values up and that make Pleasanton a great place to live. There are 6 other cities in the Bay Area who have increased their sales taxes to pay 10.75%. They're Alameda, Albany, Newark, San Leandro, Union City, and Hayward. Some say that the counter argument is that we should dip into the reserves from the 115 Trust and OPEB, which is basically money set aside to pay for pensions for our retired police officers, people who have earned it. That's a perfectly valid opinion. My concern is that is going to be kicking the can down the road of what we're going to have to ask the citizens to do in the future. It's a perfectly valid opinion, but I don't know that we should try to say we're being fiscally responsible by undoing a fiscally responsible decision to put that money aside for a bubble of pensions that we know is coming. As a father of 4 children and a wife that works full-time and I work full-time, yeah, absolutely raising my taxes isn't something that I like to do or I want to do. But I ask you to compare the amenities and the greatness that we have in Pleasanton and what it would mean for us to be able to continue that, keeping our reserves, and make your own informed decision on that, because I will be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Vivek Mohan, District 4.
Thank you. I think the public does not need to be this ATM machine for various levels of government to dip into at all times. I vehemently do not support, and I'm against any tax increases at any level of government until and unless that we have actually spent the time to figure out if you're running an efficient organization. Unless we have done everything we can to figure out ways to make the life easier for our citizens at the time when we have runaway inflation, insurance rates are going up, water rates are going up. I mean, if you look everywhere, the citizens are being asked to do more, to pay more for fewer and fewer services. I've heard this thing about that, Pleasanton has not asked for more money. Well, guess what? California has one of the highest tax rates in the country. How much more do we want from our citizens? I do believe that we can find ways to cut costs, ways to cut waste in our budgets. And as someone who has done that as part of my career, I've turned around underperforming organizations. I've turned around, I've run significant organizations through times of change like this. I've spent the past 3-4 years in the city halls talking to a lot of people, and I am very comfortable that we can do without the tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. And Valerie Arkin, District 2.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I am in favor of Measure PP, the sales tax measure that's on the ballot, and I voted to put it on the ballot. It was a 4-1 vote. What I said about being a consensus builder, I tried hard to get Councilmember Balch to support it and even tried to compromise, could not get there. But we absolutely need to pass the sales tax increase. We have a $13 million a year structural deficit that is projected for the next 8 years. We have already cut $2.5 million out of our budget. Can we cut more? Of course we can, and we will to balance our budget because we have to balance our budget, but those impacts will be felt by the community. Things like our library, our park maintenance, our senior center, our public safety, and in fact, our fire department, our fire and police are all supportive of this tax because they understand what the impacts will mean, to their department. It affects the business community as well with our planning department, our permit office, which is already experiencing cutbacks, downtown events, all of those things will be affected. Businesses should want to locate here. People should want to locate here to become a resident here, and we have to maintain an attractive, high-quality place to live here. I really think these are things that we all value in our community. I raised 3 kids here, and I love what this community has had to offer for my children as well as for adults here, and it really pains me to think of what that impact could be if this tax doesn't pass, because we are in a really tough budget situation. Talking about the pensions, the 115 Trust, It's a little complicated to understand, and people don't understand what it is, and I don't have enough time, I think, to explain it, but it is an investment fund that has been growing over time. I'm so glad we got it, and it was started a while back, and it will help smooth over our pension obligation payments year to year if we need it, but you don't want to use it all at once. My time's up.
Thank you. Question number 2, we're going to start with Matt Gatos, District 4. Water is another topic that's been all over the news in Pleasanton in recent years. Rate increases, PFAS contamination, wells offline, infrastructure projects, new sources, the Zone 7 lawsuit, you name it. How will you work to help ensure Pleasanton has a safe, reliable water supply that is financially equitable for residents, businesses, and the city's water enterprise fund?
The answer to that question is I already have been working on it. I've met and gained endorsements from members of the Zone 7 Water Board. I've been in touch with folks from the Regional Water Board, and I've sat down with engineers and geologists as recently as this week. The city is drilling new test wells. Right now, I don't know if everyone knows this, we're the only Bay Area city that had to shut down all their city wells because they're contaminated with PFAS, forever chemicals that cause a host and myriad of health problems. And as a result, we're not pumping any city water, and we're buying all of our water from Zone 7. It is a huge issue. I wouldn't even call it a priority to be dealt with. I would call it an absolute necessity. There are a few issues with PFAS. One, eventually we're going to get the test results probably after the election from what's being drilled in the Hop Yard area. If those aren't walled off geologically from the plume that's coming basically from the area of the airport into Pleasanton, we're not going to be able to get any of the city wells back online without building treatment heads to treat for PFAS at the head. I've sat down with the congressman locally, other Wales officials to start making inroads to try to figure out how to solve that problem, because it's not okay that we can't pump our own drinking water because it's contaminated with chemicals that cause health problems. So that's an absolute priority of mine, and I think that issue, in the compartmentalization of the issues we have with Zone 7, that is the most important one for the future of Pleasanton residents, and I've already spent significant time making inroads to deal with that. So that's how I'd answer that question.
Thank you. Vivek Mohan, District 4.
Water is an important issue. If you go back to the previous round in 2022, it's like deja vu all over again. The two of you were sitting here asking a different set of people the same question. You go back to the 2020 elections, water was a big issue. If water is such a big issue, if water is such an essential issue, why have 40 years passed by without it being fixed? It is our actions that determine our priorities, that show our priorities, not talk. As a group of individuals, we came together to the city and said we are happy to support any reasonable increase in water rates, but we would like to see the data transparently. It was tough going. It was tough going. And that's what actually disappointed me about the engagement with the city. Because the citizens of the city are actually very bright, qualified folks who understand what needs to be done and are willing to pay for the right amount of services. But I think right now we're getting a bit tired of being told what is right. We need a more accountable government, and we need to have a more transparent conversation between the city folks and the government to decide what is right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie Arkin, District 2.
Thank you. Yes, providing clean and safe drinking water to our residents is an absolute priority and responsibility of this city. And the last 4 years, I have been working on, with my fellow council members, addressing this issue. PFAS was found in the wells in 2019. That was a year before I came on, and the wells were shut down, and all of our water has been purchased from Zone 7 since then. Addressing PFAS, we are partnering with Zone 7, and right now, as you already heard, Phase 1 with feasibility study and drilling the test wells to see if we can create new wells, dig for new wells in Pleasanton that are contaminant-free. We will know the results of that probably in 6 months or so, and we will determine what to do next after that, whether we need to treat the water or whether that water is truly contaminant-free. But we will deal with it, and we will continue to deal with it because that is a responsibility and a top priority. Because reserves have been depleted, because Zone 7 water, 100% of that now that we've been purchasing is very costly. That is why rates had to be raised. I will say, in all fairness, I did vote no on the water rate increase. I was in the minority on that, and there were reasons of how it was proposed, and I had some issues with it, so I did vote no on that. But one of the benefits of the rates that have been increased is now there is money that we issued $19 million in bonds to pay for infrastructure, and we were able to qualify for those bonds due to the rates. That's one example. I'm out of time.
Thank you. And our final respondent, Craig Eicher, District 2.
I think clean, safe drinking water is a huge priority for Pleasanton. We have the rights to 3,500 acre feet of Pleasanton water, or the water under the aquifer, and that's about 20% of Pleasanton's usage. And for us, from our wells, that's free water essentially for the residents, which cuts the cost of having that water. And we did shut down the wells due to PFAS contamination, which I think is a responsible move. However, in 2019, we should have been coming up with a plan to clean that water, to clean the contamination out of the water from those wells. You know, we're in 2024, and there's still not a clear plan on how we're going to address that or whether we're going to build a treatment plant to deal with those issues. That should have been a priority, because what happens if this test well has PFAS and we're not prepared to address the contamination issues here either? That puts us behind the curve because we just kicked the can down the road. And if this new test well, sorry, I saw the stop sign. If this new test well goes in and there is PFAS, do we stop the process or we go into another location and test there? It makes sense to have a regional well project, and I think we ought to be partnering with Zone 7. You know, maybe we could put in some pipes to get to their treatment plant on the short term. Sorry.
Thank you. For the third question, we're going to start with candidate Mohan in District 4. What ideas do you have to promote economic development in Pleasanton, both citywide and in your district specifically? Please approach the question as it applies to small and medium-sized local businesses, as well as large companies and retailers with a strong presence here.
25 years ago, Pleasanton was a jewel on the 680 corridor. We used to live in Fremont that time. And I remember driving this long freeway called 680 to come to Stone Ridge Mall to shop here. I've talked to friends in Livermore and Dublin, and they said they used to come to Pleasanton downtown to dine. PeopleSoft was the jewel of the software companies in the Bay Area. Hacienda Park was going to be the next big shining thing for us. Well, let's look at it now. Stone Ridge Mall is in the process of being redeveloped. Hacienda Park has not filled up. A lot of people we know in Pleasanton go to Livermore to dine. So why is that? I think unless we actually get down to the brass tacks and have hard conversations about what needs to be done, we're going to be here 2 years later and have very similar conversations. We have a downtown plan which has been in place for the past, well, let me just say a long time. And it gets implemented in parts, but then again we run into the bigger structural issue that we don't have the money to support that. We're the 32nd richest city in the country, and we have a budget shortfall. We're the 32nd richest city in the country. It takes a very special kind of management to have a budget shortfall. Thank you.
Candidate Arkin, District 2.
Thank you. Yes, business vibrancy and attracting business to Pleasanton is absolutely something we should be focused on. We have a whole economic development department, and that is part of their responsibility. And I like to inform you that we're going to have an update coming up fairly soon, I believe, on the City Council. So stay tuned if you want to hear some updates on that. But one thing we need to remember, COVID has had a tremendous impact on our businesses. And I had mentioned weekends on Main, the parklets, the dining options for outdoor dining, all of those things were ways we helped businesses during COVID. We also gave interest-free small business loans to help businesses get through that really tough period. Our sales tax, because of that, our sales tax revenues and hotel tax revenues are down. They have not recovered. The mall, and you know, it wasn't just COVID with the Stone Ridge Mall. Before that, malls everywhere across the country are not doing well. It's kind of a thing of the past now. And we did a whole framework, a very big process and outreach with a framework process for the Stone Ridge Mall. We do have 4 property owners there, so it's a bit difficult to, it's a little challenging. And we just approved a new development agreement, though, that will hopefully incentivize them to get moving. I have a really good vision of the mall. We've zoned for housing there, so a mixed-use development with housing, possibly indoor-outdoor dining, walkability, open space. There's a place in Southern California called the Americana. It's in Glendale. It's a wonderful look at it. That's my vision for a gem for Pleasanton.
Thank you. And candidate Eicher, District 2.
So, you know, the economic vibrancy in today's environment is really a challenging topic. And I think that's for everybody that's here. You know, I think Pleasanton's economic vibrancy has gone down. I would agree with other candidates on that. But I think there's things that we can do to improve that. I would engage our local business community, ask them what barriers they're seeing that the city is putting up that we can take down to encourage business to come to Pleasanton. How do we reduce our fees so that way it's not impacting businesses to go elsewhere because the fees are less or more affordable for them to put up shop? How can we partner with them to help them get started? In development, I think it's important to consider redevelopment opportunities and to partner with or help facilitate these conversations. Valerie had mentioned the mall, Stone Ridge Mall. There's 5 owners that are out there. There's no reason we couldn't get them all to the table and have a conversation and work to facilitate a project at that site of redevelopment, which might bring in some new energy into downtown and into our community. Into our community. I was thinking about downtown too. So in regards to downtown, we have a lot of vacant shops, a lot of openings. We need to encourage new businesses to get into those locations. And that means removing some of the barriers to get them into those locations. And I think we could probably do a little bit of a refresh downtown for, sorry.
Thank you. Candidate Gatos, District 4.
Thank you. With regard to the question of how we could get small and medium-sized businesses in my district or in city, we should probably take a look at the rules on downtown about what businesses are allowed to be on Main Street. That's worthy of a conversation. We also need to be not unduly restrictive to business at all. We need to attract businesses. We need to encourage them to come here in the ways that we recognize people will spend money. I don't think Pleasanton is the 32nd richest, well-funded city in the world. I think we have a lot of wealthy people that live here, and we need to figure out how and where they spend their money and figure out how to build businesses that will attract that. That is part and parcel of what we need to do. In our district specifically, we don't have a ton of new open space to develop, but when that comes up, I think we need to take a hard look at how we do that and how we increase vibrancy in downtown. I've talked to local businesses. There is thoughts about maybe parking Main Street in a different way, closing a part of it off. Some businesses are in favor of that. Some businesses aren't. Technically, only the east side of Pleasanton is in my district in District 4 because the other side of the street's a different district, but I'll speak on behalf of all of Main Street and say that I'm in support of whatever the businesses want to do that they think that will help. And we can open that conversation. We can have that conversation. And we don't need to be restrictive to what type of businesses are coming into. We learned a hard lesson with Costco and have lost about $1.5 million in tax revenue for the last 10 years with folks that thought that. San Ramon did that too. They didn't want Costco in their city because they thought the traffic was going to be too bad. So you know what they did? Danville said, sure, build it here. So they built it on the border between Danville and San Ramon, and Danville gets all the tax revenue, and San Ramon gets to have Costco's gas station where they make much less tax revenue. So let's not be short-sighted about what businesses we allow and what we don't.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Candidate Arkin will start this next one. Residents continue to be focused on public safety in Pleasanton for good reason. Where does public safety sit in your list of campaign priorities, and how do you propose to improve public safety in the city?
Okay, thank you. Before I start with that, I'm going to mention one point that I forgot to mention on my last, and about I think there should be an emphasis on attracting sales tax generating businesses to Pleasanton. I mean, we have Costco coming, but 10X Genomics, for instance, is one of our top 5 sales tax generating businesses. So a focus on that is something also I'm in favor of. I just wanted to finish that thought. Public safety. Public safety is important. We all want a safe community. And in a recent community survey, 93% of residents here feel safe. I'm proud of that. I hope we could do better, and I'll work hard to try to achieve that. But I am supportive of our police. I have family members that are police. I have a brother that's a 36-year officer. I have a cousin who's a retired police officer, and I have a child that's in a law enforcement academy right now. I have voted on a lot of things like the CSI vehicle, which I think should be coming soon, that they will have, so their equipment. I do believe in some oversight, and when I got onto the council, we have semi-annual updates from our police department that I think is wonderful. I helped work on the school resource officer MOU, which I think is instrumental in having the officers on our school campuses. One of the things I'm most proud is the alternative response unit in dealing with those experiencing mental health crisis, and we have a lot of success rate with that in our community and in our schools for that. I think we should have more attention to that, and I hope that's a program we can preserve in spite of budget challenges. I helped with the safe gun storage ordinance,
Thank
and
you.
I'm out of time.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Candidate Eicher, District 2.
So this is a topic I could go on all night about. Pleasanton is not the community it used to be, and our issues are starting to grow in regards to crime in Pleasanton. You're seeing more homicides than we've had in a long time. Violent crime is on the upcreep. You're seeing you can't go into some of these big stores like Home Depot, Walmart without having products locked up because they're afraid of people coming and stealing their products, and they don't want to have the confrontations. Our police department, when I left 3.5 years ago, we were understaffed because of departures from the department, and they've been pretty much understaffed for the last 4 years. We need to make sure, I know recently we've had some new hires to the police department, which has helped the situation, and I think that's an improvement, but it shouldn't take 4 years to get the department back up to full staffing. We need it at full staffing. We need to address some of the workers' comp issues that are going on in the department. They still maintain about a 5% injury rate, so you have officers that aren't able to service our community because they're laid up due to injuries. And I think locally we have some issues with policies at the district attorney's level that are affecting our community. So when the crooks think they're not going to be prosecuted, they're out doing more badness than normal. And if we don't have a fully staffed department, we can't address those issues effectively.
Thank you. Candidate Gatos, District 4.
Thank you. This is an important issue and something I've dedicated my entire professional career to. I spent 6 hours in court working on public safety in Alameda County and Pleasanton today in the very same suit that I sit in front of you in tonight. This is a topic also I could talk about all day about because I was doing it all day long. As far as my expertise and what I bring, my election to the city council will essentially bring the city, its voice, its interagency liaison with the prosecutor's office. It will close that gap and to make sure that the criminals who violate our community are held accountable. That's what I do all day long. I don't just work with police, I train them. I trained them as recent as yesterday on how to do their jobs effectively. I'm essentially a public safety expert. And a story aside about Home Depot, right? The day Blake Mose got shot in Home Depot a couple of years ago, on my own time after work, I called the detective at Pleasanton PD, drove there after work, and sat down with him for a couple hours going through the entire investigation and telling them how to follow up, what to follow up to make that case airtight. I do that for any detective who calls me at any time from any of the agencies that I've ever worked with in California, and I think we need more of that. We need collaboration between prosecutors, tough on crime prosecutors, and police agencies to make sure that we're working towards the same end and we understand the difference between a career criminal, that's the revolving door, who routinely victimizes our community, and the low-level cases that don't need as much attention, and we need to focus on the people who are repeatedly violating our community and taking our quality of life and our standard of living down. And that's something that, I bring to the table almost for free for this. So thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Mohan, District 4.
Thank you. Like all the other issues that you have talked about before, it's actually not very, very complicated to figure out how to solve problems. You go to the source. So in this case, we go talk to the police officers, which I have done. And here is the general feedback that I've been getting. In some cases, folks have left for better opportunities elsewhere because the pay is better. But that's not the main reason. A lot of folks have said that they do not feel respected by the city and by City Hall specifically. And it's not a general statement, but by some folks in City Hall. And that's just not acceptable. Because these folks put their lives on the line for all of us, you and me, on a daily basis. Just like the firefighters, just like the folks maybe not putting their lives on the line, but they put day in, day out, they work to make sure the roads are working fine, the sewer systems are working fine. These are the people who work hard on our behalf, and they deserve our respect. So I go back to Craig Eicher's point. If you want to solve problems, you go to the folks at the source. So in this case, I would actually love to have a further conversation with Craig Eicher as the ex-police chief to figure out how to solve this problem on a long-term basis for our city. It will take money. That's the unfortunate part. And we do have a budget problem, as we keep on hearing about. So the budget problem needs to be solved. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 5, we will start with Craig Eicher, District 2. What are your goals related to new housing in your district? What will you do when your vision and that of your district constituents conflicts with city priorities or your peers on the council?
That's a big question. Well, my district really has a tremendous amount of residential in it. There are small areas and where there are businesses in there, and there's not a tremendous amount of opportunity for redevelopment within that block. The city has already addressed some opportunities that they're looking at in my district, or specific to my district, such as the inn that's on Santa Rita Road. They're going to be redeveloping that, which I think is a reasonable project. There's also a project that I believe is coming down the pike that it may have hit planning already in regards to some redevelopment in Mission Plaza. You know, I don't know that taking out retail to put in residential units is the best solution, because we're again further impacting sales tax in that sense. But I think we should be finding opportunities, and I think there are places in town where we can do this. So the school district site, we have room out on Vineyard, and we have the East Pleasanton plan, places that aren't really in my district that I think we need to be looking at and looking to find ways to develop and build homes for teachers, police officers, firefighters, so that way they can live and work in our community.
Thank you. Matt Gatos, District 4.
Thank you. As far as how to connect housing in our district, I'll say I don't have ton of faith in the way the state's handing down housing mandates, and I don't appreciate the one-size-fits-all approach that the state puts on us. My record on the Housing Commission and the Planning Commission will bear out that we've had a lot of community engagement with where people want to comply with the mandate from the state about where to zone new housing. One of your parts of your question asks, how will I deal with disagreements from other council members? I've had active conversations with council members and mayors in this room regarding what to do and how to encourage development at the site on the corner of First Street in Bernal in Pleasanton, the PUSD school site. There's another site owned by the school district out on Vineyard that's now being developed, and about a month ago, Mayor Brown and I, at the residents' request, as the head of the Planning Commission, went out and sat down with residents and heard their concerns about the way they wanted it to be developed, where they wanted the park situated, not to have their children play next to Vineyard, where it's Vineyard and out there where the cars go really quick, how they're going to turn in and out. So I've taken a hands-on approach in doing it. And I think that there is sometimes healthy disagreement between council members. There certainly has been disagreement amongst the current city council with regard to housing and a lot of other issues. And I think it's important to have disagreement. It's important to have smart people that disagree with one another, because that's how you find common ground and that's how you have the best solution. So I think that kind of a situation is okay and should be encouraged. I mean, in my job, I'm in court constantly dealing with, lawyers who are aiming towards and advocating towards a different end, and I end up. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. You do have some extra time in the closing argument and the closing statement than opening, so save rebuttals or other thoughts for that period. Vivek Mohan, District 4, same question.
Thank you. During my tenure on the Planning Commission, I have learned a lot about the housing situation in the city. In fact, I see folks like Connie in the audience, and I want to acknowledge them for having taught me how the citizens view some of the housing developments. To me, it's actually, again, it's not that complicated in the end. We do what is right for Pleasanton. Period. So in this case, it's actually for the infill projects where we already have existing neighborhoods, we cannot put these high density projects in the middle of single family homes. I mean, that's just nuts. Now we use the state mandate to say, well, we cannot ignore them, so we have to approve these projects. No. The state has not asked us to put high-density homes in the middle of single-family home neighborhoods. On the flip side, we have massive undeveloped tracts of land like the East Pleasanton area, and folks have stopped the development of that area for quite some time. We can build a master community where we can get some of the younger families in. We can get the next generation sustainable technologies in, but we need to have a vision for the future for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And Valerie Arkin, District 2.
Thank you. In regards to housing, we do have a certified housing element from the state. I'm proud that we've been able to do that, because 20 to 30% of cities in California still do not have a certified housing element. And that's a testament to our community development department that worked hard, all of our city and council worked hard in getting us to that point. We have zoned for 6,000 additional units. And just to understand the gravity of that, we have about 29,000 units right now. So that's an additional 6,000. I am in favor of more affordable housing, because housing affordability is a big issue that we need to address. Market rate housing, not so much. We never really have a problem achieving that goal. One of the things I do believe in is that developers need to build their affordable requirement. They are, by state law, allowed to fee out and just pay a fee instead of building the affordable units within their project. I'm very much against that, and we're evaluating fees right now to update our fees and hopefully incentivize developers to actually build the units. The Harmony project, which is the Tri-Valley Inn project that was mentioned before, very much against that one, because they feed out on it in a spot that was perfect for affordable housing. And mind you, they didn't have to build that many units. It was like 6 or 7 units. Right near shopping, drugstore, parks, schools, bus stop, everything, and they did not build it, and I don't like that. There's a lot of state mandated laws that I don't like. The no parking requirement now that you can build a 46-unit project with no parking if it's near, say, the A station. You can put a 4 or 6-plex place right. Okay, I did not get time to finish. I'll have to finish later. Thank you. It's a big topic.
No doubt. And maybe not surprisingly, we've also come now to the final question of the evening. We are going to start with Matt Gatos, District 4, an opportunity to speak to your district constituents directly. What do you think is the most important issue in your district, and how will you work to solve it?
I'm going to answer this question by saying that I think Pleasanton is a fantastic place to live, and we have what I would consider to be a bunch of first world problems. Water is a huge issue. Public safety and people's confidence in that is a very high priority, as the feedback from the citizens gave us. But I can't sit here and tell you with a straight face that, the folks up on Mirador have issues that need to be addressed, as opposed to the people who live on St. John's downtown. I know the folks out in Ruby Hill have had a difficult time with PG&E and their power turning off and on, and the city has been doing a good job dealing with that. And even at the houses that I visited out there, folks told me at some point they had no power for 3 or 4 days, and that's completely unacceptable. I know how much and I pay to PG&E for my power and my electricity and my gas. I expect a high level of service from them. So if I'm on the city council and my residents aren't getting power for 4 or 5 days, I'm going to get loud. So I think that's an issue that's germane to that specific area. But I've talked to all my neighbors too about the development of the school district property. We used to call it Village. It used to be Pleasanton School. We've taken a lot of impact or input on that, and that's something that my specific district, it's in my district, and they're very interested in. But my job as a councilman isn't just to represent the members of District 4. It's a job to represent the entire city as a whole, and that's the attitude that I'll be coming into it with. Keeping in mind all the issues we've talked about tonight. So I'm nothing against everybody in my downtown district. I love you all. You're good people, but I'm here for the entire city and to deal with any specific issues that come up in my district or anywhere else in the city.
Thank you. Vivek Mohan, District 4.
Thank you. So 2 points here. First of all, whichever district we come from, we represent Pleasanton. Period. There is something specific to District 4 that it's very spread out. So what we have is slightly longer lead time or turnaround time by the police department. We already alluded to the power, the blackouts during the summertime, which actually is not a first world problem. It is something that a lot of developing countries struggle with. We're talking about water quality. That is not a first world problem. That is something developing countries struggle with. And that actually has been one reason I got involved in politics. That the richest part of the richest state of the richest country in the world, why are we having these conversations? So again, I come back to the basics, which is we can talk about these issues. We have talked about these issues for a long time now. I think it's time to stop talking about them and actually get a bunch of people with the skill sets to fix these problems. And I'd like to submit to you that, given my skill sets to run complex organizations through times of change, I am suited to support the city through these times and come out the other side a more vibrant and even a more relevant city in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie Arkin, District 2.
Thank you. I would actually agree with the idea that, yes, District 2 gets to vote for me, but I represent all of Pleasanton. And when I'm on the council now, and if I have the honor of being reelected, I will continue to represent all of Pleasanton. So I don't look at it as specific to my district, and my district has concerns that the other 3 districts have as well. Some of the things that are important are the water, of course, which we've already talked about, and how we're addressing that and moving forward. Public safety, addressing that as well. Housing impacts and how it affects existing neighborhoods. Those are things that are important to people. In our community survey, one of the things that people said was protecting the environment 83% said that was very important. So there's another added. Keeping the historic charm of our downtown is another one that ranked high as important. And when asked how important is the city's ability to provide police, parks, and good streets, 89%. So those are all things that are important to our community in addition to what we talked about earlier. And those are the things that I will continue to address as a council member. And we are addressing, as I am addressing as a current council member. I'm going to take a moment, because I have a little bit with the last of affordable housing. I think I just wanted to reiterate, it needs to be in the right location near transit and amenities. And the impacts to existing neighborhoods is something that always needs to be addressed. And I really advocate with developers. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Eicher, District 2.
So I'm on board with everybody. We represent the entire city, not just our districts, and we should be concerned about issues that affect everybody in Pleasanton. One of the big issues that I've heard about almost my entire career working for the city is traffic. If you don't have proper engineering and you don't have traffic officers and officers to go out and address traffic issues, it just gets worse. It gets compounded. With the shortages in the police department, with potential structural deficit due to our spending, that makes it hard to address those particular issues. But it also comes back to, if we don't have revenue coming into the city, it makes it hard to afford our parks. It makes it hard to be able to go out on Main Street and change the garbages out and do the maintenance that's necessary to make our city what it has been in the past. So the most important issue, I think, right now is really the finances in city and financial responsibility.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to closing statements. Each candidate will have up to 3 minutes to provide final comments. We're going to go in reverse alphabetical order this time, which means we will start with Vivek Mohan, District 4.
Thank you. All right, so we've talked about the issues at length now. And as I've said in my earlier remarks, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. If you go back to the YouTube videos of the previous election cycles, the past few election cycles, we're talking the very same things. We're talking housing, we're talking safety, we're talking water. So why have those not been fixed? And I think unless we have that conversation, we are going to be here 2 years later with me or some other folks talking the same issues again. Again, as someone who has run and supported large organizations through times of intense change, and as someone who has spent the past few years in the city talking to a lot of folks, not congressmen, not the mayor, with all due respect, but actually folks on the ground who do the work day in and day out, it's actually fairly simple. So today we have the underlying issue behind safety, the underlying issue behind not fixing our water supply quickly, and other issues that you hear about is money. We have a budget shortfall. The question is, why do we have a budget shortfall? Even in this cycle, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, this was flagged in an open council meeting in the same chambers. And I remember going to some of the council members and having a conversation about this, that, guys, this is real. I understand numbers, I understand complex P&Ls, I understand financial statements. This problem is real. Let's fix it now. Otherwise, it will get into a bigger issue down the road. Well, a year and a half down the road, we're still having the same conversation. So we need to actually fix the process. We need to put the accountability where it is due. In our system, it is the city manager who runs the show with support and oversight from the council. But yet we hear a lot of our people saying, that they went to meet the residents, they went and did this. That actually is part of the problem. When we cannot divide who the roles and responsibilities of people, then everyone starts doing the same thing and actually causing a problem. In talking with the city staff members, a lot of them are frozen. They're good people. wonderful people, but they're frozen because they do not know how to handle the current the council members' directives. They're also struggling with how to handle the balance between consultants and the city staff work. Because for everything that we do, we have wonderful supportive staff, but yet we seem to have an over-reliance on consultants, which again is a waste of money.
Right.
We can actually fix our problems in a fairly short order if we put our hearts and minds to it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Matt Gatos.
Thank you.
District 4.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody for being here tonight. I want to start off just by saying that I'm not the kind of person who's going to sit here and tell you what I think is going to make you vote for me or elect me to it. I don't really feel comfortable talking in massive generalities or talking about things in such a high level. I'm a specifics kind of person. If you ask me a problem and how to fix it, I'm going to be the first one to tell you how I'm going to do it and to go specific on issues. So I will say that, experience matters. Experience and local ties matter. Understanding what the values of this community are. And there can be way vast different opinions on what the value judgments of our community are, where we want if we want development, if we don't want development. And those are all conversations that are worth having, that I've had. Taking in lieu fees from developers, that allowed me on the Housing Commission to lead a grant to Sunflower Hill to build a facility for, folks who need a little help and a place to live to integrate in our community. So it's not all bad. It's a pendulum that swings back and forward based on what the community values are. I hasten to criticize the current council, the current mayor, or anyone who I know cares and loves this city as much as they do. I think I understand the arguments on both sides for sales tax measure. I didn't really get to finish my comments there, but this city has shown great fiscal conservancy for a long time. What's happened over the last few years in the wake of COVID, losing $11 million in hotel tax, Stone Ridge Mall not being open during COVID, that all had an effect that's rearing its head now. We knew 5 or 6 years ago that we were going to have a pension bloom, and that's why the city put $38 million away. That is now $46 million, and put money away to keep our obligation to our firefighters and our police officers to make those agreements that we made to right. So I think there's a lot of different issues in this community, but they're very compartmentalized. Water being the most significant one that we need to address and deal with. And I'm the kind of person who deals with one situation at a time head on. And I think you have to have the experience, the ability to prepare, the ability to take a lot of information and distill it into a meeting and work with other people towards a focused solution for individual issues, rather than criticizing the current administration or anything decision they've made on such a higher level. I'm uncomfortable doing that. So what I like to do is take these issues one at a time and do it. With regard to support from the community, I want to say that I've had a lot of people come out and support me. I've had my Alameda County Prosecutors Union, the Deputy Sheriff's Association of Alameda County, several Congress members and local community members come out, and I want to all thank them for the time they've spent. Lorraine Green from Zone 7 for educating me for months and months on the PFAS issue so I can speak intelligently about it. Thank you all.
Thank you. Craig Eicher, District 2.
I believe all of us up here are well-intentioned and really want to help our community do better moving forward. That's why we're up here having these conversations. We all see the world from a different viewpoint. I want to ensure our public safety personnel understand they are supported by their leaders and that they're properly staffed, funded, and have the tools and facilities to do their jobs effectively so they can provide service to our community. Our policy decisions, our discussions should represent that, and our words are important. However, our actions and priorities represent our true intentions. So people see what we do, and that's how they see the world. Fiscal responsibility. I believe in fiscal responsibility and not spending beyond our means. I believe the half-cent sales tax is not necessary to support the general fund. The city does have capital improvement projects that needs to be addressed. The problems and the lack of funding are not the fault of prior leaders, as some city council members have suggested. True leadership takes creativity and working with our business community to find ways to create a robust economy in Pleasanton. to fill storefronts, and to use balanced development approach to draw new dollars into our local economy. Past leaders had the foresight to set aside funding offset and for the anticipated growth in pensions. I expect transparency and accountability in our government. Our community deserves to understand exactly how our leaders are conducting our community's business. Our future as residents in the Tri-Valley is dependent upon clean, safe water from city-owned wells and from our water supplier. Working together, we can find solutions that best serve our community in the short and long term. In closing, I ask that voters do their homework and pick the best qualified candidates for City Council. Choose a representative who responsibly represents the community they serve. 4 out of 5 of the Pleasanton Unified School District trustees have demonstrated their faith and understanding in my leadership abilities and endorsed me to run for City Council. 3 former police chiefs, the former Alameda County Sheriff, and 2 former city managers have also offered their endorsements. And over the past 30 years, I've earned the trust and support of a wide variety of community members and business leaders. And for more information about me and my campaign, please visit ikerforpleasanton.com. I humbly ask you for your trust and your vote in November so that I may continue to serve our wonderful community.
Thank you. Finally, Valerie Arkin, District 2.
Thank you. And thank you again to the Weekly for hosting tonight. I'm going to start off by just addressing the budget shortfall and how did we get here? Well, first of all, I would like to tell everybody that you can absolutely, we are transparent. You can absolutely look at our budget online. It's on our website. You can see where all of our money is being spent. I encourage everybody to do that. And like I said, it's right there. The things that have gotten us here, well, our current city manager has discovered some infrastructure needs that had not been addressed before. Improvements with water, storm drain, sewer, due to aging infrastructure, due to growth that we had back in the 80s, things that hadn't been addressed and now we need to do it. We also have increased costs with insurance premiums that have skyrocketed, utilities, other operating costs, increased personnel costs, that's big, COVID impacts, which we've already discussed, and our pension obligation, which the amount we had to pay for the pension obligation, and it's $211 million unfunded liability, but what we had to pay this year for our pension, $27 million, increased $10 million in the last 7 years. We only paid $17 million in 2017. So that's how we got here, and now we have to do something about it. So I encourage you to be informed on the sales tax measure and reach out to the city for facts, and you could always reach out to me. But ladies and gentlemen, experience matters, and having council members who have experience in governance and working together matters, and I have 16 years of experience in that. The important issues we're facing, budget challenges, water challenges, addressing our affordable housing are top ones, and it's essential to have council members who are experienced and knowledgeable on the issues as we progress forward. I strive to find consensus on the council, and I actively collaborate with my colleagues. I don't make decisions for political reasons. I make decisions that are best for Pleasanton. I will represent the interests of our community, not special interests. I have not accepted any donations from developers or corporations. Like I mentioned before in our recent survey, 91% of residents feel Pleasanton is a good or excellent place to live, and 93% feel safe. I think we can do better. I want to do better, but I'm proud of those numbers. My flyer here, which you can get out there, includes all the normal things, background experiences, accomplishments, priorities, endorsements. All of my information on this flyer is positive, it's truthful, there's nothing negative about an opponent, nothing is misleading, and all of it is in line with the community or character traits. So please grab one on your way out. I'll say it again, Pleasanton is a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family. I'm committed to that vision for future generations. I love this community and what it has to offer. The reason I've continued to dedicate years of service to Pleasanton. And I want to do what I can to make sure our current and future residents will love this community as much as I do. Visit my website, votevaleriearkin.com, for more info, and you're welcome to contact me at votevaleriearkin@gmail.com. Thank you, and I would be honored yet again to have your vote.
Thank you. On behalf of the Pleasanton Weekly, I would like to thank all of the candidates for participating tonight, the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce and James Cooper, as well as Amos Productions. How great are these guys? A recording of this forum will be available soon on the Pleasanton Weekly's YouTube channel and through pleasantonweekly.com. To learn more about supporting our Embarcadero Media Foundation, which is now an independent journalism nonprofit organization, go to embarcaderomedia.org or visit our table outside the room. We are so grateful for your support this evening, and we look forward to our 6 upcoming forums the next 4 weeks throughout the Tri-Valley, including Pleasanton Unified School District on Wednesday, September 25th. Have a good evening. The sooner you have a feeling about tomorrow,